We've become too comfortable with this being the norm. It shouldn't be the way that it is. We're also scared to interact with each other that we don't even bother anymore.
You're in your room, it's late at night. What do? You scrolling? You texting somebody? You know, this is fine. This isn't bad. You know, this isn't bad in small doses. But we don't do small doses. And these phones that are within arm's reach 24/7, they're not designed for small doses. You know, no amount of likes on Instagram or social media, whatever, it's not going to bring us fulfillment. It never will. And it's only getting worse. Most of our days go like this. We'll be on Instagram or TikTok or whatever. You know, we'll scroll for a little while until, you know, feel like we should be getting out of bed by now. And then by lunchtime, we'll move over to YouTube and whatnot. And eventually in the evening time, we'll go over to, you know, Netflix, Hulu, stuff like that. You know, obviously this can vary. But, you know, like, we're on our phones quite a bit.
My screen time is like too much. It might be over like 8 hours a day, so that's a lot.
Sometimes like looking at the screen for so long, while I am like a social media specialist, so like I do a ton of like, I'm on my phone like probably a lot, like too much, and it tends to hurt my eyes. So like that's how I know I'm on my phone for too long, and I start to get a headache because, you know, that screen can sometimes hurt my eyes and make me get a migraine.
Like, do you see it as a bad thing going on your phone too much during the day? Like, do you see it as something that you want to improve in your life?
Yeah, I do see it as a bad thing because like I'm looking down so much and I'm not looking at nature. Like I'm not exploring like the world, and being in my phone is like blocking me from seeing other opportunities that are out there in the world. So I feel like it's making me closed off instead of open when I'm not over and being observant to like the nature, like taking a walk outside and just not being on my phone on times.
We're so afraid of feeling bored that we constantly feel the need to distract ourselves. We can't handle our own thoughts more than a couple minutes at a time.
Also, before we continue, I'm not here to on you because I find myself doing the same things. I'm not trying to become some prophet, you know, saying that you're all going about this so wrong, yada, yada. Well, I am saying that, but I'm also saying I'm in the same boat as you. So this rant also applies to me as well. You know, we're all in this together. All right. Anyway.
The average recommended screen times are about 2 to 4 hours for adults 18 and higher. However, we're at about 7 hours of screen time per day, mostly through TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, and all those good old streaming services. Now, I'm not saying you should never go on social media or Netflix ever again. I'm just saying we gotta be a little more careful about how we use them. It's great keeping in contact with some old friends who you might not see anymore through social media. That's great, cool, sure. But when the majority of your interactions with these people are through social media, maybe it's time to ask them to hang out in person. Our phones are supposed to be used as a tool, but we're letting it abuse us. We're letting it take away our lives. Half our day is spent on our phones. Most of us can't handle the technology that we're so lucky to have.
I think it's good if you use it wisely. You know, I think it's good if you don't depend on it. You know, now with this whole AI and ChatGPT, you know, that I think has completely revolutionized the whole teaching and education world. Provided that you are well versed, provided that you are able to navigate and monitor, self-monitor, if you will, your own usage of technology, of course, I think it's a great thing. You know, I think that once you become too dependent on it, and once you're not able to function with a simple task like being able to use an index, or being able to maybe think of, I don't know, whatever it is that you need to without having a piece of technology do it for you, that's where I think we get into that slippery slope, you know?
More isn't going to make us happy. Constantly being stimulated by our phones all the time will never make us fully happy. We're stuck just feeling meh all the time. What's wrong, buddy?
I just feel meh all the time.
You see that? Not fully happy or sad, just meh. We might start to feel a little bit of sadness, but as soon as we do, we distract ourselves with something on our phones. You need to feel fully sad. After you accept that sadness and let it envelop you, you'll get this euphoric feeling of happiness, true happiness. You just gotta let it all out.
I say be bored, feel dread, feel sad. Don't immediately go to your phone and distract yourself with a new YouTube video or text a friend when you're feeling sad. Sit in it. Sit with those uncomfortable feelings because that's the only way you can grow as a person. After you do that, you'll feel euphoric and happy. You'll stop feeling so meh all the time. We're too comfortable feeling meh that we forget what true happiness must feel like. We scroll, we feel meh, haha, video made us chuckle. Then we just continue to scroll and continue to build that habit of meh. When you're done scrolling, you can't quite pinpoint where this anxiety is coming from, yet you just saw all of your friends having the best time on social media. Even though all that is artificial, it still makes you feel sad and wonder why aren't you having as good a time as them.
Back when my parents were kids, they didn't know what time it was during the day. They knew when to go home when the street lights came on. Sometimes I envy this kind of childhood. No phones, no video games, no computers. The TV barely had any channels. Just forced to live in the moment at all times. I mean, sure, being a student back then probably sucked, having to actually use a book to find information instead of just using Google and now AI writing a whole essay for us. That stuff's nice, but that's all it is, just nice. Being a kid in the 80s, 90s must have been great. You know, when you weren't hiding under your desk from a Cold War bomb scare.
You go to a concert today, only see your phones. No one's actually watching the concert anymore. They're all just watching it through their phone screens. You know, it's a shame. No one's present anymore. We're losing all those little mundane moments in our lives that are actually pretty great. Remember elementary school when Q married you or the holiday party? Those moments were so great because of how simple they were. I mean, sure, we were kids when they happened, but we don't need much more today. Our phones have us thinking that more is better, but it never will be.
We're missing so much that we don't even realize. The other day, I nearly walked past a friend because I was buried in my phone and didn't even realize I was passing him until he hit me on the shoulder. The worst part is that we're not noticing it. We don't even know what we're missing. You know, when we're with our friends, the second we get bored, we jump to our phones. Or we will be having a conversation, but we're on our phones while we're having it. We aren't even looking at each other. We're becoming unable to live in the moment, in the present. You know, and it's not even entirely our faults. The ads and marketing today have gotten so good, we're constantly being sold something. Every single app, streaming platform, computer, TV, they have so many ads you can't help but feel overwhelmed.
It's scary talking to people in real life. I'm not going to say it's easy to just go up to someone and start a conversation with them. It's a skill, and like any other skill, it has to be developed. You got to practice using that skill. But we don't practice as much as we should. Like, sure, we'll talk to our friends and family and shit like that, but we're used to talking to those people. Talk to a stranger, you know, see what's on their minds. And not when you're at a bar and you're drunk and you're talking to everybody. Do it when you're sober. You know, it's going to be awkward at first, sure. But maybe eventually you'll find some common ground and you'll start talking to this person for like 45 minutes or so. That'd be awesome. That'd be pretty cool. You know, there's no secret to conversation. You know, you could watch 100 YouTube videos on how to do small talk or how to be more charismatic, but until you go out there and actually have a conversation with people, you're never going to get better at it. So actually, while I was writing this, I had a dude come up to me asking me, like, oh, like, what are you writing about, right? So I told him it was for a class for this, like, video project that I got to work on, right? And he started telling me about his son, who is a videographer who started his own company, and he still works at it today. It was cool. It was short and simple. It was sweet. It was nice hearing him talk about his son. Like, you could hear the pride in his voice talking about his son and what he's up to and like what he does for a living, right? And you don't get that genuine interaction from social media, right? Like everything on Snapchat and Instagram, it's all just artificial bullshit. Also, when the hell do we find the need that everyone has to know what we're doing during the day? Like, I'm sure social media probably started that, but like, really? Like, not everything we're doing during the day is that interesting for everybody to see it. Like, maybe some of the things you're doing during the day are interesting enough to be posted, but like the majority of what you're doing is not that interesting. And also, would you still be doing that if it didn't have those artificial likes attached to it? You know, I'm not saying you should give up all your technology, right? Because we do need it for most things in our lives today. I'm just saying maybe you should consider what life would be like with a little less of it, you know? I mean, there are great uses for the technology that we have today, right? I mean, there's no reason to get lost anymore with Google Maps showing you however many different ways to get to a location by foot, bus, airplane, sea, boat, you know, wherever the hell you gotta go. That's awesome. That's cool. You know, you could also keep in contact with friends and family. That's great. That's also cool, right? They could be wherever too, which is incredible. That's insane that they could be on the other side of the planet and you can just give them a quick little. That's wild. Okay, that's insane. I think the problem is just like Instagram and TikTok and stuff like that, right? Where these apps are designed to keep you on their platform for as long as possible. You know, I just think the problem is that we're being overstimulated, right? Like there's no break, there's no rest anymore. You know, like nobody's bored. We got to be bored. That's what I think, though. I don't know. The hell do I know? I mean, yeah, it's cool getting a text from a friend immediately, right? But, like, maybe we're not supposed to interact like that, you know? Maybe we're supposed to wait until we're in person to talk to these people. You know, we continue this path of just only texting people,
You know, we're gonna wind up like these guys. If we wait to tell them the things that we've done during the day until we see them in person, it'll create a more genuine experience with that person. You could see their facial expressions and you could see how they react, right? I mean, you can't get all that off of text, you know? I know not everybody's on their phones 24/7, and that's like strictly their only form of communicating with other people. Like, we still talk to each other in real life. You know, it's not like we're, you know, only talking to each other through text or FaceTime, you know, whatever. But I just think that at the rate we're going, it's not good. Like, we're becoming so heavily dependent on our phones that we genuinely can't live without them.
You know something? It's the power of the mind. I feel like it's the, you know, I'll give you an example. Listen, I think that like a cell phone, as an example, even for me, now that I'm mental pacifier, if you will, like you give a pacifier to a baby to keep them calm. Same sitting in a doctor's office, you're sitting alone, you're waiting for a friend, you're grabbing a cup of coffee, you always flip it on a phone because maybe you send a message, you look at social media, you read something.
You know, I mean, there is hope though, because our generation, Gen Z, despite being on our phones the most compared to any other generation, we are self-aware about it. So we're actively trying to reduce our phone screens. So that's a nice thought, you know? I just think we gotta challenge ourselves to be better, right? We can't be spending half of the day on our phones scrolling, looking at nonsense, right? We're not like bored anymore. And being bored is where thought and creativity and everything else comes from, right? Just like think back when you were a kid, you know, when you were like bored in class. You just had to sit there and your mind just started to wander and it was so fun. Like, our mind doesn't wander anymore. And we wonder why we're so miserable all the time. Everybody's so anxious and depressed. It's because we're not just sitting in our own thoughts anymore. Just sit in your thoughts. Like, just sit without any distraction for like 10 minutes, 5-10 minutes. God, it'd be so, just see where your mind goes, you know? Maybe you'll think back at this thing you did a year ago, 2 years ago, and you're like, wow, I really wish I didn't do that, you know? Wow, I'm an asshole. I really hate that I said that to that. That's cool. Let that shit bubble to the surface and just sit in it and be like, all right, that happened. Let's move forward. You know, let's move forward instead of just like we're doing all right. We're doing good. We just gotta go on our phones a little less. That's all that it is.
You know, keeping your phone away for an hour, like as just a small mental exercise. Don't look at it for an hour. And sometimes you might start to sweat it out, be like, oh my God, like, you know, you have that need that you have to check it. I think that if you, and that is you generally, give yourself a challenge. You know, you go to the gym, you're going to want to listen to music. Maybe you might have an iPod or something else to listen to music for, right? Which is not a phone. Maybe you want to go out and play basketball, go for a walk without the use of any kind of technology and just take in the sights and sounds around you. That might be a good help to kind of transfer that energy or that focus into something else without the use of an assistive technology. I think would be fantastic.
I know that my phone definitely has been bad with my self-care. Like, I haven't been taking care of, like, you know, stuff that I prioritize, and like it's definitely helped making me procrastinate. So maybe by putting my phone down and giving it a time limit, that can better help me be on time with stuff and not procrastinate anymore and get things done early.
Go for a walk without your phone. When was the last time you left your house without your phone on you? Try it. I bet you can't. Get lost without the safety net of having your phone on you. You'll get found, probably, and you'll have a kick-ass story to tell afterwards. Hang with your friends, but put all your phones in a basket and launch that shit in the other room. It's gonna feel uncomfortable, but you gotta embrace it. That's the only way we can grow as people. Jesus Christ. When the hell do we find the show? I already fucked up.
and so they log off of it, and they don't have an Instagram or Facebook or none of that. So that also can be, once again, a very strong